In today's incredibly competitive cruise ship market, there seems to be two companies that really stand out above the rest in terms of cutthroat competition. Echoing rivalries of the White Star and Cunard lines, or the Hamburg America and Norddeutscher Lloyd, the desire to have the best rests between Royal Caribbean International and Carnival Cruise Line. Both lines started within 5 years of each other, during a time when the ocean liner was, in some people's minds, on the verge of total extinction. Air travel had begun to do what many hundreds of years of war, social or political changes, and tragedy could not do: render the ocean liner obsolete. Thankfully, there was something that could be made out of this, especially considering the fact that there were so many small and moderate-sized ocean liners that were looking for a good second life. What could they do? Founded in 1972 by Ted Arson, the Carnival Cruise Line started their operations with Mardi Gras, the former RMS Empress of Canada of the Canadian Pacific Line. The first years of Mardi Gras and Carnival were very shaky, to say the least. Soon the company began to expand their fleet. Just 3 years later, they bought their second vessel, the nearly 26,000-ton RMS Empress of Britain, also of the Canadian Pacific Line, after operating under the Greek line for over a decade. After some freshening up, she was renamed Carnival. These two ships began to open the door to a mostly new market, one that had existed for well over 50 years. When cruising was first conceived in the early 1900s, mainly from German companies, it was more meant for those that were, to put it in best terms, inquisitive and adventurous. They were not really meant to be what they are today. By the early 1920s, the idea of cruising changed, mainly as a result of prohibition laws implemented in the United States. Booze cruises, as they became known, allowed one to travel anywhere from a night to, as they got popular, an entire week on some liner for the sole purpose of being able to drink outside of America's borders whilst enjoying the ship. Cruising then became even more popular in the 1930s as a result of the Great Depression, mainly as a way for companies to keep their ships in service during lean times. But cruising as we know it today did not really begin until the early 1950s. Some early pioneers on that front were Cunard and the P&O lines, with ships like RMS Caronia and SS Cambria. Now in the mid-1970s, Carnival was beginning to introduce cruising to the masses in the Caribbean. Mardi Gras and Carnival became very popular, albeit at a slow rate. In 1978, Carnival purchased a third ocean liner, which originally started life as the RMS Transvaal Castle of the Union Castle Line. She was soon renamed TSS Festival. With these three ships, Carnival began to grow, but so was their competition. In order to have a chance of being on top, they essentially needed to do two things. First, figure out how to increase the appeal of cruising to everyone, not just to those who were wealthy and elderly, which was the general consensus at the time. And second, they needed to begin making their own ships, designed by them from the very beginning in order to maximize function, profitability, and operation. And so, in 1982, Carnival introduced their first purpose-built cruise ship, MS Tropicale. Tropicale would be the dawn of a new age for the company, implementing so many features that can still be found on their current vessels, as well as changing the perception of what a cruise can be forevermore. Anyone familiar with Carnival, as well as the early years of the modern cruise industry, will be familiar with the name Joe Farkas. He is a marine architect based out of Miami, who could be credited as being a pioneer in modern cruise ship decor and design. He has been a collaborator with the company since they acquired Carnival, when he was given the task of overseeing her conversion. He had also worked on a hotel in Nassau for the company previously. Afterward, he worked on Festival's conversion. Now, he was given the task by Carnival of designing their first purpose-built ship's interiors and general arrangement. He also, by chance, was given the opportunity to design a distinctive but functional funnel by the request of Ted Arison. Whilst designing the future vessel began, Carnival began looking for a shipyard to build it. Originally, the task was going to be given to a shipyard based in Japan, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, as they had just done work on their last ship, Festival. However, the honor of building this new vessel would soon be awarded to the Danish shipyard Aalborg Werft. With general designs complete, construction began on the vessel, designated as Yard Number 234. As construction continued, the time eventually came to reveal what was possibly the greatest hallmark of the ship and for the company: the funnel. Farkas, per the request of Arison, wanted to make a functional funnel that also stood out from tradition. Arison had received several ideas before from several other naval architects on possible designs, but he did not like any of them. The main issue that needed to be solved was ensuring that any smoke and soot that came out of the funnel would not fall back onto the deck. Almost every single cruise ship and ocean liner previously had struggled with this to varying degrees, the most famous of which is the SS Bremen and SS Europa. Inspired by an airplane's wings and Bernoulli's principle, Farkas designed a special winged funnel that would easily solve this problem. Not only did it help more or less conquer this issue, but it was a truly unique design aesthetically. He made a model and presented it to Arison. He absolutely loved it. But when it came time to present the design to the shipyard, they basically denied the request, saying that it would be too expensive and that it wouldn't work. The shipyard said that they would design their own, but to be fair, they would test their design against Farkas's design. In the model test that followed, Farkas's design by far was the better choice by function. The shipyard afterward made no attempt to push away from the design. The Whale's Tails funnel, as it was later coined, was put into place on 234. Joe Farkas created an extremely functional funnel that also happened to be an absolute masterpiece. No Carnival ship since then would be without one. On the 31st of October 1980, 234, now named Tropicale, was launched. Following additional work on her interiors and exterior, she was acquired by Carnival Cruise Line. The handover occurred on the 4th of December 1981. At 35,190 gross registered tons and 671 feet in length, she was Carnival's biggest ship. On January 16, 1982, Tropicale left for her maiden voyage. She was an instant success. When put together, her operation, interior design, and funnel became a platform for which the company and their rivals would begin to branch off of. Carnival themselves began to really grow during this time. By the mid-80s, they knew that Tropicale's design was what they were looking for to lead them into the future as a top-of-the-line modern cruise company. Soon the company added Holiday, Jubilee, and Celebration to their fleet, which were basically enlarged and improved versions of Tropicale. With these new ships, Carnival began a new campaign to attract cruisers of all ages and of all economic status. This was a pretty big risk, but through great advertising and, of course, having fun ships, it paid off big time. When Carnival began to introduce their monstrous fantasy-class ships in the early 90s, Tropicale was sent to open the doors to new cruise ports for the company. She was essentially their test ship. She was the first Carnival cruise ship to be based out of and in the ports of San Juan, New Orleans, Alaska, and Tampa. In September 1999, Tropicale suffered an engine room fire while on a cruise from Cozumel to Tampa. For 2 days, she drifted and was nearly hit by Tropical Storm Harvey. Luckily, one of the engines was able to be put back in operation, and she safely made it to land. No passengers or crew were injured during this event. By 2001, Carnival was beginning to update their fleet, which included the renaming of their ships to support the company's name. But before Tropicale could receive the name of Carnival Tropicale, she was transferred to Carnival's new sister company, Costa Cruises. For the rest of 2001 and most of 2002, Tropicale was heavily refitted to support her new role as an Italian cruise ship, which included the removal of her winged funnel and the installation of their traditional and simple funnel. Sporting the name Costa Tropicale, she served Costa for the next 3 years. In 2005, Costa Tropicale was sold to another Carnival sister company, P&O Cruises Australia. She underwent another refit and received the name Pacific Star. She spent the majority of the next 3 years cruising around Australia and New Zealand. In 2008, Pacific Star was sold once again to Pullmantur Cruises and underwent a refit in Singapore. She was renamed Ocean Dream. In 2009, a case of swine flu broke out among the passengers on a Caribbean cruise. Ocean Dream initially docked in Venezuela to let those native to the country to get off, and then she docked in Aruba to let the remaining passengers off. Rumors that suggested that Ocean Dream was put into quarantine were denied by the owners. In 2012, Ocean Dream was chartered to the Peace Boat organization to replace the SS Oceanic. She served under them for the next 8 years, sporting yet another paint scheme. In September 2020, Peace Boat was ordered to replace 2 of their ships, which included Ocean Dream, and their operations with 1 larger ship. Later, they would require the 77,000-ton Sun Princess from Carnival Corporation and renamed her Pacific World. With Ocean Dream's duties replaced, she was no longer needed. With her future now looking empty and with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic continuing, the former Tropicale suffered the same fate as many of the early modern cruise ships did. In late 2020, she was sold for scrap and was beached in Alang, India on New Year's Day 2021. On March 27, 2021, the scrapping operation began. Tropicale was Carnival's first purpose-built cruise ship. Her success, largely thanks to the brilliant minds of Ted Arison and Joe Farkas, brought forth a new age for the company and the cruise industry as a whole. Today, Carnival is the largest cruise line operating by passenger count. They, over the years, have succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams, and those roots can be found in those early critical years with those pioneering ships, such as Festival, Holiday, but especially Tropicale.